Welcome to One Bite at a Time, a podcast where I, Chef Wu,
and I, Chef V,
discuss the hospitality and culinary industry from both our professional and personal experiences.
and touch on all the things that make us smile, cry, laugh, shout, and celebrate, all whilst trying to figure out how to set the standard
One bite at a time.
Okay, so today we are discussing one of my favorite topics, something a little bit controversial.
I don't think it's even that it's controversial. I just feel like it's hot.
It's hot.
It's hot in a sense, and it shouldn't be. It should be quite clear cut, but unfortunately,
it's not.
Words don't mean things.
Words don't mean things. So we want to take our magnifying glass and just take a very critical look into how food is communicated in the industry. So I'm sure from what I'm saying, you might understand what the topic is.
And if you don't, I just think the best way to break it down is we are now in a time where everyone has access to social media, everyone has access to a smartphone, there are loads of social media platforms, and everyone has a voice and everyone is entitled to a voice.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's really important to interrogate how one's voice is being used and what people are using their voices for, especially when it potentially comes at maybe the detriment or the downfall or even the building up of something and making sure it's honest, it's authentic, and it's just true to who everyone is.
Exactly. So we're going to answer all the necessary questions I think that are going around. For example, what is a food critic? What is a food influencer? Are there differences between the two? Are there similarities? And we're going to take it from a very factual point of view. Because it's high time that we are educated on how much words do mean.
Words mean things.
Words mean things.
And once we start to interrogate the fact that words mean things and what words are being used, I think that we can be a bit more honest with ourselves. And once we can be a bit more honest with ourselves, I think it is then easier to, separate the frauds from the real.
On that note, shall we start with some definitions?
I think we should start with definitions. And we've got our cards here because, like we said, factual.
Factual. We want to make sure that we back this by...
With facts, with enough knowledge that makes us sound credible enough.
Okay.
Because that is the whole point of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Vanessa, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. So I will give the definition for food bloggers. What is food blogging or vlogging as well, since we are in a camera economy.
Content,
Exactly. So food blogging or vlogging is the practice of creating and sharing videos on social media platforms that focus on food-related content. Simple.
That's really simple. And of course, we'll expand on it, but I will do what a food/restaurant critic. So the definition that I found, I looked through a few definitions and I was able to create one definition off the back of that. A food/restaurant critic is a writer who specializes in providing thoughtful commentary on their experiences dining out. These individuals visit food establishments, sample the food, and report on their overall experience. So it's not just about the food, it's about everything that pertains to the business. And there are some key factors that make a great food or restaurant critic. 3 of them that I put down were a highly discerning palate, broad knowledge relating to a variety of different cultures, cuisines, and lastly, the ability to write, document, or relay information about food in an entertaining yet informative and educational manner. Do with that what you will.
Wow.
Okay.
No, I like how you broke down the criteria that food critics need.
It's not just by a degree in media journalism.
I think it's also important to maybe look at the criteria of a food blogger, because...
But the beauty of it is I don't think there is a criteria for it. I think if you love food enough and you are articulate enough to kind of put that out in whichever way is most comfortable for you. That's the beauty of the social media age. I reckon anybody could be a food blogger. And it looks like you don't agree with me, but I'm of the thinking that anyone can be a food blogger because it's about what you like. And you're sharing that with the world. And those that are aligned with your likes will feed into what you're putting out in the world. And those that are not will
So I
walk away.
think you given that point of view, I think you're coming from how it should be.
Okay.
Because what I have seen, there are a lot of people who think just because they have a camera and a phone, they are a food blogger and they're able to, and maybe they'll share experiences that are very biased or
Okay, no,
non-informative,
it's fair. I get what you're saying.
or just bashing, things like that. So to me, it's like a food blogger, I think, should have criteria too is about storytelling, about how you're creating an impactful experience for your viewers to get to know
to
what
engage in,
it is about. Like,
yeah.
to me, it's about awareness and storytelling and content creation and quality content creation. And I think that has also been
Okay, so what would you say the criteria is that's required for? Oh, those are the criteria.
Because I look at some amazing food bloggers and who have established such a great following, such a great brand, and if you ask them, they would say there are some people who have just come in and it's taken all that hard work that they've created.
So basically, they're
for
people
views or for a reaction.
Yeah,
and I think it's the same in both. You can look at it in both.
So
so
there are some people that are just bamboozling their way through.
Yeah.
For some free food, which is crazy because why are you looking for free food?
Oh my gosh.
Without me being shady, I think the thing with food blogging, or how I see it, is if you have a like for food, if you like eating out enough, or you like to go out and eat food or make food, because food blogging has different it has different
levels,
avenues.
Yeah.
So like you could be a food blogger that goes to restaurants and you just review the food in the restaurant and the space. You could be someone that creates recipes, and that in itself is a food blogger.
Yeah.
So you find recipes online, or you create your own recipes and you put them out. That is another way of or another form of food blogging. You could just be someone that just talks about food if you have like a food podcast or whatever it may be. But I think when we then look at food blogging that doesn't necessarily need to have a solid foundation of sorts, and you compare it to food critiquing, they are two very different things. And in this our Nigerian landscape, those lines have definitely been blurred.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Let's look at what the current landscape is like, and let's also look at maybe how it progressed to be like this now. Like what was the reason it's come to be like this?
Because you guys don't call out people on their shit, and now people are running rampant saying they're the biggest food critic in the world. But we can break it down for you. But we can break it down for you.
Oh my gosh, we'll move with the shade. But yeah, let's
break it down.
Let's break it down. So I think let's look at how the two were very clearly different before the rise of social media. So
definitely,
food critics were very much more traditional. You had newspapers such as like The Guardian or
The Times,
Condé Nast Traveler, all these, it was very much traditional media. Food critics were very much tied to journalism proper.
Yes.
They would either be working freelance for multiple publications, or they would be attached solely to maybe a website or something.
Exactly.
So for that purpose, I think it was very much easily identifiable to know what a food critic was. Also, it was never about the critic. You would not see who the critic is.
Yes, you'd have a name on the article, and that's about it.
It's purely about the writing, purely about breaking down the experience of going to a restaurant.
Absolutely.
So you're reading it to get and it, that's why they say you need to be in journalism, because the way you have to break down the food, the science of it, the textures, the flavors, the components, paired with the ambience, the service, everything, it is broken down to literally, it's like a storybook.
Yeah.
So you feel like you've literally gotten
You,
the full
that
experience without
experience.
going. So it
Absolutely.
was very much more traditional. And I don't think at that time food bloggers were reviewing restaurants.
Yeah.
I think the food bloggers we had more so before social media really kicked off into this, everyone has a voice, was more so maybe cooking, bloggers, home
Yes,
cooks,
food blogs.
sharing recipes.
That were actual their own blogging
Yes.
websites on, what was that one back in the day? Was it Blogspot? Where people used to have their own blogs and they would literally, whether it's share their recipes, but they do actual write-ups, they take nice
Yes.
pictures before the rise of social media. So you have
Exactly.
people that had those platforms, and a lot of them have transitioned into social media food influencers, and that's amazing because you have evidence of them doing the legwork, which you can't knock. You guys have been doing that for years.
Yes.
And you've seen their growth in it. You've seen them improve in their craft. There is not an air of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but there's this confidence that comes with knowing what you do. And it's not cockiness. It's you're confident. You're so confident in what you're doing. Yes, like you're. I'm sorry, you said established, and I just thought of Esther was black and broke. Now established. Sorry, I realized that now there's certain words I hear, and so the minute you said that, I was going to burst out laughing. But yes, they're now established individuals, and some of them have gone on to make cookbooks, become cookbook authors, and they have their own food networks and food shows, and they're really, the graft is there. But in Nigeria, I think there's been a heavy rise in. Okay, let's just call a spade a spade. I think what has happened is, in Nigeria, we have this tendency to not call out. Let me not use the word frauds. What is another word?
From what I hear you're saying, let's try and word it. So I do believe, because one, the food industry here is very early in its growth.
It's in its infancy stage.
It's in infancy stage. Whoever was the first to come out and say something was easily believed.
Yeah.
Because there was not necessarily the organic progression behind educating yourself on what these things were. And I think it's important to look at it from anywhere in the world. I do think it's funny because I think both, if you look in London, I think food bloggers were the ones getting angry at being misrepresented.
Okay.
And here it's the other way around. It's food critics or people who are educated on a culinary background are being annoyed by certain people calling themselves food critics. So I think we can look at both avenues, because I've experienced the two.
Yeah.
So I don't want to just focus on saying this is. I think it's happened because social media has caused confusion
social media
everywhere.
Definitely has.
It's caused so much confusion because there's so many now similarities, which I think we should talk about where the confusion lies. But so like I said, I remember I started off as a food blogger in the UK.
Oh, okay. I didn't know this.
Yeah, so Taste with V was my blog before it became Chef V. And like you said, I just opened an Instagram account and I just started going, because I always went out to eat and people just loved to know where I was going, and I would just say, oh yeah, I like this place.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Was this before you had done training? Or...
Yes, it was before.
Okay.
This was like, I was doing this for 6 years before. I was just a foodie from university, everything, just going out to eat. And I just documented it, took pictures. And this is something I've been working on for quite a while. Then COVID happened and everybody suddenly was becoming a food blogger. And the amount of attraction and likes a lot of people were getting, and the brands that were reaching out to them to do things, a lot of OG bloggers from back in the day were getting like, we've been at this game for so long. We've established a level of what food blogging is. There's quality, there's storytelling, there's something about it, but you get a lot of people who are coming out with just a camera, even TikTok is not even about quality content anymore.
Yeah.
You just do something for the
Yeah.
views. Next thing, Ninja has partnered with you, and you're
Yeah.
like, but me that I've been cooking, or
Mm,
so there was that disparity. Like there was a
yeah.
clash. Here, I think it's a similar thing. You've had maybe home cooks, you've had those type of food bloggers for a long time. You've also had chefs for a long time, culinary geniuses and stuff setting themselves up low key. Then because of social media, anyone is just deciding that they're going to call themselves whatever they want to call themselves, and no one is questioning it because maybe they don't
That's
know.
it. Nobody's questioning it. I think that's where people are being able to get away with murder.
So
Yeah.
do you think we should look at the importance of both?
Yeah,
And
because
then let's look at the
they
confusion
both
behind
have
both.
really important roles that they
Yeah.
play in the hospitality industry as a whole, without a shadow of doubt. For me, it's like with a food critic, being able to intellectually and articulately review an establishment, it's an important thing because what that tends to do is, if someone with credibility comes into an establishment, let's say me as a chef that I'm working in, and I read their review, I can take whatever I've read and use it to improve what it is I'm doing at my establishment. But there has to be some credibility behind it, because you can't just walk in and say, oh, you're doing this wrong. It's like, what do you know about the industry?
Yeah.
What do you know about what I am doing here for you to say I'm doing that wrong? Show me what you've done in the past. Show me what you've built. Whereas with a food blogger, it allows me to know if the general public that are just looking for a means of recreational consumption, if they're enjoying it, because your food blogger is usually your average person that just comes in and shares it with a wider audience, and off the back of that, more people come in. That in itself is great, because that's free marketing
Yeah.
for establishments. It's a no-brainer. They go
Yeah.
hand in hand. They're both needed. But if you're doing it, you need to do it well. You need to do it honestly. You need to do it intentionally. And for me, I feel like that's the roles
Yeah.
both
I agreed
play
with
in the
that.
industry.
I think just to add on to that, it's so essential that a food critic that's why they say they should either go to culinary school or have had some sort of culinary training, whether
Yeah.
it's shadowing in a restaurant, behind the scenes, seeing how flavors are put together, seeing how things are created. Because like you said, if I'm coming to you and saying this dish was not as perfect as it should be, and you can't
Articulate
articulate
what it
why or
is.
give a solution to how to improve it through culinary expertise, then all you're saying is, I don't like it because it's just not nice.
It's not given.
It's not
If
giving.
something is good, I would say is good.
So to me, that is the difference. We're trying to have a
I'm
serious,
sorry.
serious
I'm
conversation
sorry.
here.
Because you clearly, okay. So just a disclaimer before we get too far into it. I'm going to be very frank. Anyone that knows me and follows me knows how I feel about a certain food critic in this industry. So a lot of what I'm saying, and I'm also I'm an open book. So a lot of what I'm saying is going to revolve around things that I've seen this said person do, and how I feel a lot of it is detrimental. So don't feel any kind of way as you're watching this, but just know that there's underlying warminess there, because I don't know how else to explain that. But yeah, let's continue.
What was I saying?
I felt like that disclaimer was necessary
No,
so that my shade makes
it makes
sense.
sense. Also, I think just to add to that, obviously, you the food critic world in Nigeria is non-existent.
It's non-existent.
So when you attach yourself to it, you are going to be put under the
Scrutinized.
magnifying glass, and will
Yeah.
give very factual opinions on what it is that could be done better, what you could be doing well, and what is completely not acceptable. So yeah, as I was saying, and I think you touched on, food critics are for the betterment of the professional landscape of the industry.
100%.
Restaurants are going to rely on your constructive feedback to improve. Food bloggers, the importance is awareness, it's reach. It's, to me, I look at food bloggers to write down list of places of, okay, this is a new place
Exactly.
that's opened. Oh, this is a nice Italian. So they help give you a
Broaden
framework
people's horizons.
exactly of the restaurants or things happening, let's say festivals, or go around and tell you the different things that are happening there. So it's awareness, it's social outreach, it's communication, right? It's fun, it's light. And I want to touch on something that I feel the major confusion is here.
Okay.
And why I don't understand is how heavily dependent restaurants here are to reach out to food bloggers for tastings of their soft launch. Because I feel like if you really wanted to get a critical feedback, you would you would invite culinary experts. And there's it's different to say I'm having an influencer event post, it's a new opening, to saying I'm having a tasting. Because you invite the bloggers just so your place booms on social media. But what critical feedback are you getting about your menu?
What have you then been able to take and go back to the kitchen and improve on? Nothing, because everyone just said, oh, this is good. Everyone is going to say something positive for the most part, because with a free meal comes, you've bought a little bit of their conscience, you've bought a little bit of their integrity, you've put a plate of food in front of someone, someone's going to be like, oh, it was good. And you get a few people that will be like, oh, it wasn't good. But when you look at the ratios, it's not enough for someone to, if you've invited 10 people and 8 people there have said it's good and 2 people are saying, oh, it wasn't good, but they can't necessarily articulate what wasn't good about it, you're just going to take it at face value. 8 people said it was good, so maybe it just wasn't for them.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have a mixture of, whether it's food bloggers and culinary experts or people with expansive culinary knowledge, you can get feedback that is tangible. I can say to you, oh, I really did love the meat. I think it was a bit overcooked, undercooked, whatever it may be. Or, oh, this rice, the herbs that you've put in it, something in there is overpowering the overall flavor of the dish. And things like this will then allow, if you have a competent chef in your kitchen, that information goes back to the kitchen. The chef is then able to taste it and go, I see, it could be the garlic, it could be the coriander, it could be the sour cream, whatever it is. Do you get what I mean? You've been able to take something back and improve on it because you have people with the knowledge at the table.
Exactly. It's so funny because I feel I sit somewhere in between. You know, like I said, starting off as a food blogger, but now I've gone to culinary school, I'm a chef.
Yeah.
And, I still love to talk about my restaurant experiences, whether it's controversial or not. But I make sure to always have a critical point of view. So I don't necessarily, I would still not call myself a food critic.
Yeah.
Because I don't have, I think I'm a good writer, but
you are
I
a
haven't.
Good writer. I think you're a good writer.
Thank you, girl. But I still wouldn't, because I have the integrity to say I don't think I've ticked all the boxes. And I would love to in the future maybe go and do a little short course and to really understand how to bring proper food journalism and food critiquing into this industry. But I'm not there yet. So I'm somewhere in between, and I'm loving the
limbo.
The limbo. Is it a limbo?
It's a limbo. You're just kind of like hovering in the middle.
So I was invited to an event.
Okay.
And they called it a food tasting.
Okay.
And it was for a new restaurant. And I was very excited. I was like, oh, wow, nice. This is finally a restaurant who wants to get some critical feedback. Came, sat down, and they even printed out a sheet with the items we were going to taste, feedback form, everything. I was excited. I had my pen ready.
Of course you did.
But the other 20 people in the room were influencers. And I kid you not one piece of paper was touched by anyone else.
You were the only one that filled it out.
I was filling out, writing, giving my critique. And then at the end, they're just like, okay, 10 out of 10, just ticking the 10 out of 10 box. And then, for them, it's just, let's post this place, let's hype it. Because also it's for their gain to keep their feed buzzing, saying, I've been invited. Because food bloggers, that's how they grow,
Yeah.
because if they keep posting about
Yeah.
new spots and being invited, they're going to be invited for
It's
more.
for
So
more.
it's I was just like, wow, like, where are the other
People with knowledge
critiques?
is, yeah.
And I was just like, is our restaurants, do restaurants really care about this side of the industry? Or with social media and the rise of just being a trending place, is that what has taken precedence now?
Um, I think it is what has taken precedence. I think it's very much the loudest voice. And the detriment to everything with that is the fact that the loudest voice is not going to give you the best feedback. It's really that simple.
So I feel like because of the disparity with social media, as we said, there are food bloggers who are trying to critique, and maybe there are food critics who are trying to also benefit off having that blogging style.
Mm.
I would ask of anyone who's trying to be a food critic here, is this where you feel you have to go to become something in Nigeria? Because if you asked any established food critic around the world, it's not about the views, it's not about the Instagram followers, it's not about the reactions on your comments, or, you know, trying to say something that has a
That's
punch.
really it.
You know, it's really just about the integrity of the experience and the food.
And that's why it gets me so bloody riled up. Because honestly, in this industry, it shouldn't be solely self serving. For so many people, it's just a self serving venture.
Yeah.
It's how can I make 9 figures or 7 figures in a week? Bro, that's not what this is about. Like, if you really, and I suppose for me, I get so worked up because I care. Like, I got up and I came to this
Mm-hmm.
place because I was like, I wanted to make my mark on this. So yes, there's a level of self-serving there. Like, I want to be known for this, but I want to be known for it for the right
Yeah.
reasons. And it's like, it shouldn't, your driving force, and I've said this in many things, I think this thing that I say, it kind of feeds into any kind of situation in life. Your driving force shouldn't just be making money. Your driving force shouldn't be your personal gain. There should be a bigger picture around it,
Yeah.
because there is no better feeling than being able to say, I'm the best chef or I'm the best whatever, but then other people back that up. Whereas you have a self-acclaimed title, and everyone who has the knowledge that you claim to have is rebutting that and is like, no, you're not. So there's a disconnect there. There's a dissonance there. And unless we address that and we have these honest conversations, it's things won't improve. Like, there is nothing wrong with saying, you know what, maybe my knowledge is not as expansive as I thought. There's nothing wrong with saying that, oh, you know what, I should probably go and learn and read up on certain things. It doesn't take away from what you've done. If anything, it's just going to help you improve and be better and be more credible and have people who you can hold the light to be like, yes, this person is putting in the work. So they will back you. You have people backing you for the wrong reasons. Like, people are now inviting you to things, not because you're credible, but just because, oh, if this person is there, then it's great.
But that's what I'm saying. It's just I look at it from a point of, who do you put the blame on? Because this is unfortunately what the market and the economy are after.
Yeah.
And if I'm a self-serving person, I'm gonna leech onto it,
Yeah.
because I don't care. I just want to be whatever
That's
is
it.
pressing, whatever is gonna get the reactions and the views, and whatever's gonna put money in my pocket.
That's what
That's
you're
what it
going to
is. It
chase.
takes so much, I would say, boldness and courage to be against the wave, and
Mm,
to know what you're doing it for a reason. And it's not about what metrics people find important now, but it's about, in 10 years' time, if someone reads what I've put on my page, it's still going to hold that same weight, because it's been backed by history, tradition,
yeah.
culture, betterment of the
Mm-hmm.
and of the industry. And I think, for me, on both sides, food blogging and food critiquing, Nigeria, anywhere else, but where in Nigeria, I want to focus on my people because it's you I care about. We need to do things to better ourselves and not to pit each other against each
Against
other.
each other.
A lot of the things and contents I'm seeing now, if you want to, and this is for me where I'm applying this more to people who want to be critics and people who want to be culinary experts. It's never about pitting two things against each
Against each
other.
other.
It's never
That's not
about
how it
saying
works.
this cultural food is better than this one, or this type of chef is better than this type of chef. It's all about, if you're going to hone in on something, talk about what it is that item you're discussing does well. What is it that they can improve on? If there are similarities with something else, you can touch on the similarities and say, oh, for example, akara, there is a link in Brazil with acarajé. Does that mean you're saying, but my akara is better than yours? No. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
Giving those strong opinions is what trends online. Does not mean that that is a educated stance. Do you get what I mean?
I do get what you mean.
And that is what riles me up. It's when trying to trend by opinion is what is grounding weight and respect. And you go on TikToks and the first thing you hear is, follow me to the worst establishment. And that is the one getting the views. And really, what are they saying was made it the worst establishment? Because they wore slippers and they didn't get let in.
I think the other thing with social media, and I think this then ties into like the you look so angry,
girl.
This then ties into how the rise of social media has affected. It has both its positives and negatives, and in that instance, it's negative in the sense that the as a human, we are human race. As a human race, for whatever reason, I don't know why, we really do feed off negativity. So it's those ones that get, the traction. And so people feed into that. And people buy into it. So it's like, have you seen that thing? That's the one that everyone's going to share. That's the one that's going to get all the reposts. That's the one that's going to get the engagement. But the problem with that is, especially if you know that, okay, so for instance, the example you've given, and they've said that is because they wore slippers, someone wore slippers and they didn't get let in. So you're now telling everyone it's the worst establishment and affecting someone's livelihood, someone's bread and butter. You're affecting not just the owner, but the people that are employed there. You're affecting their daily 2K, because that's literally all it is for your average person. Do you know how unfair and just so that your own pockets can be lined? Like, it's so brazy when you sit back and you look at it objectively. It's actually so, because outside of the person that owns it, because if the person that owns it has other things they're doing and whatever, then fine, cool. It's not the end of the world for them. But the people that are working there, you have literally taken food off their table. Because if that establishment doesn't make money that month, those people don't get paid. So it has a much more sinister ripple effect than people like to admit. And there are people that will come online and say, if I tell you not to go to somewhere, people won't go. And that is so wild to me.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, sometimes you're telling people not to go there because someone didn't want to pay the rate you wanted to charge.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
And to me, like, that's why I say, like, there's also a need for the food blogging part of the industry as well to have a stance and say this is right and this is wrong. And for both parts, food critic, food blogging, if you don't have that integrity, or if it's not about the right thing, it's going to be self-interest. It's going to be about getting trends, and it's going to be, you don't care if you bash a person, a restaurant, a culture, whatever it is. As long as your post
Your
got
numbers are
300,000
there.
views, you have succeeded. And I ask a lot of food bloggers, I'm like, fortunately and unfortunately, you're probably the most popular because you reach a wider audience. You have thousands of people who
So everybody wants to
look
eat
at your post, and unfortunately, they're going to ask you or maybe depend on you for an opinion or information. And that's why I'm like, it's very important that you don't just say this place is bad or this wasn't nice, or even the other way around, where maybe you're just saying this place is amazing, but you've not even, I've seen food bloggers who have said that they've not even tried the food.
Yeah, they'll say it's amazing because they pay them to say it's amazing. Like, it's a complete lack of integrity, like you said.
it's about payment, it's about posts and views, but you have people who rely on you. So I'm like, for food bloggers, should they even be giving sort of such opinions? Or should they just be posting, this is the next, like there's a few I just respect because all they do is say, this is the next restaurant in town. Check it out.
Yeah. Mm.
And at least you know, they get 500,000 views. Oh, wow, can't wait. So did you try the food? Go there for yourself.
I hear it. But and I there my thing is there's a place for everyone. I'm never gonna not, because like, yes, tell me your experience here, but just understand that one person's experience is not necessarily going to be your experience. The other thing is
Exactly.
all our palettes are not
But
the same
credible food bloggers say that. You know, they can say, I enjoyed this, you know, but it may not be for
for
everyone.
everyone. And
And
that is fine.
don't take my word as
Come and try it for yourself. If anything about it is appealing to you, come and try it for yourself.
And also the other way around, if you didn't like something and you can't pinpoint
what
why,
it was.
and it's because it wasn't about a culinary fault and it's just maybe you didn't like it, it wasn't for me. But please, if you like meaty, if you like spicy, if you like,
if this is your cup of tea, give it a try. Let me know what you think. That is how this should be done. Because unless you are a credible critic and it's like there is credibility behind your work, you can't expect people, or people shouldn't just be taking your word as face value. Like, it's not enough, unfortunately. Because even with some of the greatest food critics in the world, you'd have someone else people go to Michelin star restaurants and say, I don't like this. And it's just because that particular thing is not your cup of tea, and that's fine, but they have a Michelin star. Do you get what I mean? So it's like, if that doesn't tell you what it needs to tell you, then I really don't know how else to put this. What I like is not necessarily what Vanessa likes. Well, Vanessa loves her a rare bit of meat. Not my cup of tea. I don't want the cow mooing. I've been burnt too many times. Don't want the cow. But I know Vanessa loves her a rare bit of meat. Am I wrong?
the rare, the better.
Okay.
In fact,
so do you get what I mean? So Vanessa would go somewhere and have a tartar and she will be ecstatic, and I'll have a bite and I'll be like, not for me. And that's fine. I would go somewhere and I will box off sushi. And someone will say, no, I don't like it because it's raw meat. And that's okay. But it's about knowing that I can articulate that I don't like this because of this thing, or this thing is not something that I'm familiar with or I like. And that's okay. But if it is something that maybe you like, or that's the kind of flavor profile or cuisine or cultural food or whatever it is that you're into, go for it. Give it a try. Your opinions on something, or what's the word I'm looking for? Your ideal on something, what you hold as Bible for something, cannot be based on other people's opinions. You have your own mind. You should be able to form your own opinions from your own experiences. That is the most important thing.
Yeah.
I think like that is so important. People are really boycotting establishments because someone has said it's bad. But another person who I probably respect their opinion more than that person that said it's bad will go there and say it's great. So it's like, if you needed anything to show you that two different people can go to the same place and have completely differing opinions on the place, if you needed anything else to tell you that, it's probably better for you to try it for yourself as opposed to listen to what one food critic or one food blogger said, then that's it.
Exactly. I think what you've just said, if I can give a line, a professional will never make it personal.
Oof.
Should we say that again? A professional will never make it personal.
I'm so glad you looked into the camera there. That's going to great content, because it's really that simple.
It's really that simple. I like to look at it, and I want to bring in like just the chef industry here in Nigeria. And I think with a lot of the things the chefs are doing, because we take such a professional eye into things, we're able to fuse cultures and different things. We'll take something from the north, merge it with the east, take a spice from the south and make something with it. And we're able to do that because we look at the structure of a meal, right? And I say to someone that's professional who's able to successfully break that down, they won't say, but why did you do this to this is not good. This
Yeah.
is not a proper representation of, oh, you guys are always using the same spice.
Don't get me started.
But how many times has that spice been transformed into different ways? Did you
Different
talk
things.
about that? No.
Yeah.
You want to say that chefs are boring because they're
They
always
only
in the same.
use suya and
Yes.
zobo, abi
So there's a
hibiscus.
difference in understanding food is about structure, it's about layer, it's about flavor, it's about texture, it's about traditional heritage. If you're able to successfully talk about all those things without necessarily making it, I'm from here, I like this is better than this, you will go places in integrity, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I feel like we've touched on most things. I think we've covered this topic as objective, not entirely objectively, but as objectively as possible. I think I'd want us to like kind of round off on just if someone does want to be a food critic or a food blogger, what are the things that we think they should pursue in terms of like whether it's certification or just self-improvement in the craft. Um, for me, I think if you really do want to be a food critic, read what other food critics, credible food critics have written, read their work, watch their work, and work with culinary professionals, whether it's this that you do a short course in some kind of culinary institute or you just work in a restaurant for a while. Understand all aspects of it so that when you are discussing these things and you're putting out anything about your experience, it comes from a place of knowledge. Knowledge is so important, and knowledge is everywhere. You can get a lot of this information from anywhere. The internet is a free for all. So if it's something that you're really pursuing, pursue it for the right reasons, pursue it with integrity, and make sure that you have knowledge to back it up. That's my
Yeah,
2 pence.
there's nothing to add to me to that. Um, Always be ready to learn. There's nothing wrong with knowing more each day. And before you put something out, one thing I always do when I write something is I look and I research and I make sure I've got my due diligence so that if
Mm.
anyone comes to me with a question or a clap back, I can
You can
receive
back
you
it up.
back with,
Yeah.
the facts. Um, but historical education, current climate, current culture, everything, be as well versed as possible. I think as well, I think when it comes to being a food critic, if you don't love or want your industry to be the best possible, don't bother.
That's really it. Don't bother because all you're going to do is cause discord. Um, that's the last thing that any industry needs.
Yeah. I would say for food bloggers, because it's such a vast concept, there's not much to say in terms of what you need to do. But I would say if you want a long-term career in it, the traditions are still going to stick, I think, long
Hmm.
term. Quality content,
Mm.
invest in a good production of how
Mm.
you put together your
Mm.
content. Um, Never be biased. Would you add anything?
I think to that, I just add be authentic, lead with integrity. And again, same as before, look for content it is that you would like to emulate. Look at what they're doing right, see how you can adapt it for yourself. And knowledge. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is so important. And something V said as well, research. If you want to put out a recipe, research the history of it, research the ingredients, research. Research is
Yeah,
such a great thing to do because then no one can come at you left. Anyone says something,
yeah,
you're able to back it up with the knowledge you've acquired in the process of putting this content or whatever it may be
definitely.
together.
I think when you even said authentic, when it is about food blogging, your identity is a lot
It's important,
of it.
yeah.
It's a lot more of a face what do you call
Forward
it?
facing.
Forward-facing career. So also do the critiquing of yourself as a personality, your tone of voice, your persona, how it is you want to be
Perceived.
perceived as, because people are going to attach themselves to you because they like you more so to join you in a life and feel like they're living life with you rather than I think for a food critic it's not like that.
It's not like
It's
that.
I
Yeah.
just want to read
Mm,
and gear up my knowledge and learn
yeah.
more. So that's what to me that's really in terms of just the surface area difference.
Mm,
One is behind the scenes,
yeah.
should be behind the
Should
scenes,
be.
and the other one is a lot more forward facing.
Mm,
So ask yourself, and I think that's where we say we will end. Ask yourself what it is you want to achieve.
yeah. What is your why? That's the most
Do you
important
want to
thing.
blow as a personality? Do you want to be invited left, right, and center? Do you want to get free food? Or
Or do you want to improve the industry?
yeah, and both do, but
Depending on which one you
yeah,
lean
do you want
more
to be more
into.
B2B? Do you want to be
Yeah.
more respected within the professional landscape? I would say.
Can we just do something?
Mhm.
Can we like, who are your favorite food bloggers?
In Nigeria,
Yeah, Nigerian. Stick to.
I'm on the spot there.
Okay, so my favorite food bloggers at the moment, I love Foodie in Lagos because, funny enough, I followed her from before I
Oh,
moved to
time, my
Nigeria.
girl.
Yeah, I followed her before I came to Nigeria, and I just love the fact that she's a page her page is somewhere you can go to and you can get lists of
Everything.
everything you
She
want to,
goes up and
up
down.
and down. You want to know where the best abula is? Food in Lagos. Do you want to know the top 5 places to go for brunch? Food in Lagos. And if I'm not mistaken, she started with a blog, and I think her
Yeah.
blog is like 13, between 10 and 13. It's a double digit number, Sha.
Yeah.
So she's been in the game for a hot minute before everything blew
Yeah.
up. And she is someone whose word is her bond. Like what she says, it's not from a place of, it's not self-serving. Because it's not her full-time
Yeah.
gig either. So
Yeah.
like I
It's
really respect her
passion.
work. Another person who, and my love for her comes from just the way she interacts with her community, is Chef T, Diary of a Kitchen Lover. I respect it. I really respect the community she's built,
Yeah.
how she interacts with them. Like you can see she has built herself on.
Yeah.
Like I just
Her
respect it.
personality is so engaging.
It is engaging. Like if you're her audience, you will love her.
Yeah.
She's one of those people, and it's like I'm one of those people that even if someone's not entirely for me, like if I respect your work, I respect you. Like I
Yeah.
will always give credit where credit is due. Like I really fuck with her.
Love that. So I'll give one cooking food blogger as well. I think it's pronounced Matse
Cooks.
Cooking.
Yeah, I know the page you're talking about.
She is just phenomenal. But to me, what I see is a pure passion for understanding ingredients and sharing that knowledge of what she's learned. And to me, if anyone can move into wanting to entering something like a critical level, she can do that because she's so well versed in knowledge and wanting to learn and breaking down what she's learned for other people in a very easy manner. So I really respect what she's doing. I would have said Taitu in terms of food blogging. So my next one, I just think I have to take it to someone who's just been established for such a long time as well. And I'll just say Eat Drink Lagos. In terms of the first food bloggers to start going to restaurants, it's them that most people know of. And I feel like when you gave an advice of understand your market or what you do, I think they just got that very well.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily about that fantastically Instagrammable picture. If you go on their page, literally sometimes it just looks like a
Yeah.
they haven't changed their brand for the times.
Yeah.
But their blog itself, people will still go to the traditional route of reading their blog. And that's what they say on their Instagram post, check out the full review on our blog. So I love the blogging aspect. They talk conversational style between themselves. And it's it's like if you feel like you're having a chat with them.
Okay,
So
I see
I
what you
like their
mean.
tone of voice,
Mm,
and I just any establishment that's new, or they'll go check it out. They also link their pages back to the OGs as well and talk about the ones that are still there and
mm,
go back and visit places multiple times. But what I also respect about them is how they have pushed their career into what they can do for the industry and how to give back through the
mm.
Eat Drink Festival. And to me, that festival is probably one of my favorite food festivals. I love what they're doing, and they care about the vendors that they bring on. And yeah, I respect it.
Okay. I'm just gonna throw in a bonus one. Please don't be
No
upset.
problem.
Um, I'd say Afro Limbs, but it's not really Afro Limbs, and that's just because her mum exists.
Mm,
1Q Food Platter, that's her
mm,
page in it. I like the fact that she's constantly educating.
mm,
Like that is such a big thing for me. The history, the amount of research that goes into it to give us historical knowledge of our cuisine, of our
mhm.
ingredients, of the way we cook is second to none. And it's so nice to see an older person doing it. And then obviously by way of virtue that has been passed on to Atim, and like Atim's blog was massive because she
Yes.
did the whole CNN thing with
Yes,
Anthony
exactly.
Bourdain. So Atim in herself is well established,
Exactly.
but you know that Atim's ethic in everything she does comes from her mum.
Mhm.
So Atim and her mum,
Yeah,
IQ Food Platter and Afro Lems,
yeah.
yeah, shout out to them too.
Love it.
But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up
Yeah, it
our.
does. I think we did well in keeping it.
I tried my best.
We tried, we tried. But no, I think hopefully all you listening and watching have understood the importance of establishing the
Established. Sorry.
all of you have understood the importance of establishing a framework
That is
that
credible
is credible, that is understood, and that is respected.
with
And we
integrity.
will do better to ensure that that's what we create for ourselves here.
Yeah.
And it's for everybody involved, customers, restaurants, bloggers, chefs, everybody. We all have a part to play in ensuring that we give ourselves the structure that you would want to be respected globally, I would say.
Mhm. That's a great way to round that up.
So
Guys, it's time for my favorite segment.
you guys should know it by now.
So it is time for the one bite segment. And today on the one bite segment, Vanessa's gonna lead
Am I?
because it was her idea. So I'm gonna let her lead and I'm gonna do what I do best and just give my little one bite.
Okay. So we're going to talk about GT Food and Drink Festival, one of the biggest food festivals in Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Just happened, and we're going to talk about the. I want to be a bit me, honest,
Please.
and of course, I will start by saying GTB in terms of creating a platform where anybody and anyone can come in and just try food is amazing.
It's great.
It's
Yeah.
great to be introduced to new brands, for new businesses, growing businesses to have the opportunity to meet potential customers and clientele. In terms of reach, it's a fantastic festival.
Mm.
But that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how, as a Nigerian festival, why don't we have enough respect for Nigerian professionals to be given the spotlight to
Host the master
host the
classes.
masterclasses. And I think for the first time this year was when I saw a Nigerian business be put in one of the masterclasses. She's from, I think she is currently in Houston, but
Mm.
she has one of the banana bread. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, gourmet twist,
Gourmet
right?
twist. So
Mm.
she was for the pastry or baking masterclass. But a part of me was still skeptical because I'm like, was she selected because of her
Mm.
being in
India abroad.
the abroad? And although I do think as a festival, it's important to plug in Nigerians or the diaspora doing amazing
Mm.
things, be proud to also showcase
The homegrown
the
talent.
homegrown talent and the talent who have established themselves and have sat here doing the work as well. And I think there's just so many people to select from. And I know it's important to want to be perceived as just as good as any global food festival, but if you can't have that pride of showcasing your talent on these respectable platforms and not just by saying, oh, but we have all these vendors.
This one from India and
Yeah.
this one from Taiwan and this one from America. Otito, I beg, it's actually enough. We actually have so much homegrown talent. There are so many chefs that I would love to be sat front row watching them do a masterclass at a festival in their home country. Like, do you know how self-fulfilling that is? And they're just not given that opportunity, and I think that's really fair. If anything, you have the chefs that work with GT and they're working back of house, but it's like, why are Nigerian chefs who are established here not given the same opportunities? Even if it's a thing where you guys, they do something where it's, oh, we're doing one, maybe they make us compete for it or apply for it or whatever it may be. I think that would be such a better way to do something like that, as opposed to asking this one to come because they're a food blogger in Atlanta, and this one because they're this and that. And like, it's so, because if you go to some of these places and you ask people of those countries about this, they'll say they don't know who they are.
Oh no, I have asked quite
They don't know who they are. So it's like, this again, oh my God, this is obviously a recurring theme, but this definitely plays into white adulation and just adulation of cultures that are just not ours and people that are not us, because we feel like that then gives us this, there's this yearning for proximity to something outside of us. And honestly, that is such poor mindset to have.
Exactly.
So GT, you guys need to do better in that regard. In the regards of the other things you mentioned, where they give platforms to vendors and stuff, it's great stuff when you actually accept people's applications.
It's literally my one critique to them. And it's funny because when I was saying, look at the reach, you look at the people who come to GT Festival, I can say I would bet premium pie dollar, FX dollar, that they would rather be inspired by a Nigerian doing amazing things rather than some random person from Venezuela who does not link anything to them. If I was a 18-year-old
aspiring chef,
not just a chef, anything, just to see, wow, look at this amazing professional who's done amazing, who's done things outside the country, in the country, whatever the case is, I'm being celebrated where I am. And again, like you said, white adulation, it's a shame that, why is it that I would get an opportunity outside, but in my own country, my own place, I wouldn't? So I think we definitely need to improve on that. And you have the vendors that are Nigerian, you have supporting chefs Nigerian, everyone that is literally helping this be as big as it is are Nigerian.
But we're not good enough for the main stage. The whole
promotional platform is all about these master class chefs flown in.
Make it make sense, GT. Thank you for coming to our one bite.
And I hope you do take a bite from this and ingest it.
Vanessa.
I should have said it to this camera. I'm going to say it again. And I hope that you do take a bite from this segment and ingest it well.
It's the way you went from that to smiling. But honestly, that is our one boy. That's our one bite. Hey,
boy.
That is our one bite for today. And that, I think, rounds up our episode for today. Thank you so, so much for sticking with us, guys. You guys have been amazing. The feedback to our previous episodes have been phenomenal. We were even featured or spotlighted on The Independent as a podcast to listen to, which was amazing. It was great to have that just after one episode was out. So we're grateful. We're grateful. And we want to hear from you guys. We want to know what you want to hear from us. We want to know the kind of guests you would like on here. We need your feedback so that this can be better and bigger and greater and educational, and it can be fulfilling for all parties.
This podcast is not self-serving, as we've said in our talks today. It's about everybody involved in the industry, and we're just so happy with all the responses we're getting. And this is all for you. It's for us.
Yeah, it's for the industry as a whole.
So thank you. Please make sure you support us on YouTube. You can find us on all streaming platforms. You can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on everything. And make sure you follow us on Instagram at One Bite Pod and all social media platforms.
We also want to thank Our House Studios for creating this visually and orally pleasing content that they do for us. And we would also like to thank Woodscope for allowing us to create this content in this beautiful showroom.
And of course, we cannot leave without thanking our sponsors, Tommy, for keeping us exceptionally hydrated this episode.
Thank you so much, guys.
We look forward to dishing it out with you.
One bite at a time.
That was so calm.